What's going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're talking about an Ultra League team, and specifically Chandelure. It's Litwick Community Day this weekend, for those who haven't realised and haven't been waiting on the edge of your seats for the last 2 years for Litwick to finally be announced as the Halloween time Community Day, so very, very excited for that. But the move they're giving it, Poltergeist, is not looking all that exciting. It's definitely not as good as Shadow Ball in generally on Chandelure, so really you're going to still want Shadow Ball, so I figured I'm going to give this thing a go because this is going to be a good opportunity for you to get PvP IVs on a Litwick if you decide you want to try Chandelure in any league. It does struggle due to its lack of bulk, but it does have some decent play in the right matchups. It can have good play in the Master League if you find yourself a perfect one with the 100% IVs, and in the Ultra League I think it has more play than in the Great League for sure. So I wanted to give it a bit of a go, show you guys what it can do without Poltergeist, because I honestly don't think you want Poltergeist on this thing. Maybe at a push for like raiding, maybe as a ghost attacker, but Shadow Ball is honestly so good for that as well. It's probably unlikely to be better than that unless they buff it down the line. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and let's take a look at today's team. On the lead we're bringing Scrafty, which is one of the best answers to Dark type Pokemon in the Ultra League meta in general, and there is a strong Dark type meta in the Ultra League that Chandelure really has to watch out for. Picks like Obstagoon, Umbreon, other Scrafties, and even Mandibles, which Scrafty can hang with Mandibles and can deal with it and does in a matchup I'm going to be showing you guys in a bit. So that's just to cover those bases. Not to mention Scrafty's pretty bulky, which helps take some of the shield pressure off, which we're going to be feeling quite heavily on Chandelure, and our other Pokemon in the back, our answer to water types, which is the other main counter to Chandelure, and ground types that we've got to watch out for, and that's going to be Trevenant. Trevenant is going to be acting as our safe swap to bait out any Dark types that might be hiding in the back of a lot of opponents' teams and help clear the way for Chandelure to sweep the end game. Trevenant widely regarded as one of the strongest picks in the Ultra League in general. It's not the bulkiest thing, but that Shadow Ball Seed Bomb combo is very, very dangerous for a lot of the Ultra League meta. Then of course our Chandelure in the back. Now you could run Energy Ball on this if you wanted, which is great spicy coverage against Swampert that would definitely one-shot it, but we're opting for Flame Charge and Shadow Ball for that kind of meta coverage. Flame Charge and Incinerate, great combo for ramping up that damage. Pretty intense, as we all know, from Talonflame, and then Shadow Ball is going to be annihilating things like Cresselia and Giratina thanks to Chandelure's immense attack start. Chandelure and Scrafty make a surprisingly strong pairing as Chandelure resists the fairy damage and the fighting damage that Scrafty's weak to. Scrafty can deal with a lot of Chandelure's hardest counters very nicely as well. So they've worked out together. I thought this team might not work that well, and honestly I had pretty good success with it. So let's jump into some battles and see how it goes. Right, first matchup against Diversity 100, and this is an interesting matchup. We've got Shadow Snorlax on the lead. Shadow Snorlax is terrible news for both Trevenant and Chandelure in the back. Chandelure can do a little bit better than Trevenant because that Incinerate damage is going to add up over time, but Trevenant's really going to be stuck there. But they pivot swap to a Mandibles, and not just a Mandibles with Snarl, which Scrafty can do pretty okay against. This is a Mandibles with Air Slash, which specifically is going to do better against Scrafty because that fast move damage is going to add up so much more and really start to chip us down. But we really can't swap out. Scrafty is our main answer to Mandibles. We are counting on only seeing Mandibles with Snarl so that we can handle it with Scrafty. But we're going to stay in here, we're going to see what we can do and hope we can still pull a win out in this game. I'm going to keep throwing these power-up punches, keep amping up that counter damage, which really starts getting to be problematic for this Mandibles. We might get a shield with this power-up punch now, depending. We do. That's very, very nice for us. We've got both shields out of this Mandibles, so we're going to bring in Chandelure and just start getting ahead on energy. Now, Mandibles isn't attack weighted, but a foul play would hit us like an absolute truck. We're not too worried about a shield because we're assuming that Shadow Snorlax will have Body Slam and Superpower, which are both going to be double resisted by Chandelure. So having a shield isn't the issue. It's just saving the health so we can survive this lick damage long enough to get off 2 Flame Charges. We're praying this is Body Slam. It doesn't have much energy. It should be. We should just survive. We do. We're going to get this Flame Charge off. This is going to hit for big damage against this Snorlax and hopefully take it out. Can Trevenant sweep whatever's in the back? It's a Deoxys. This is looking very, very good for us. And the Deoxys has to throw. Otherwise, we were going to get to Shadow Ball and we would one-shot Defense Form Deoxys with a buffed up Shadow Ball for sure. We bring in Trevenant, the opponent rouses, they can't win, and surrender. So against a Shadow Snorlax and a Mandibles on the same team, able to take a win. So if you looked at this team initially and thought, Mandibles wipes it, nothing you can do, just goes to show, sometimes you get rid of the toughest counter and they just can't handle the ghost in the back. Alright, this next matchup, we got an obstacle on the lead. That's fantastic lead for Scrafty in general. And they're going to swap out into a Cresselia, and both Chandelure and Trevenant do well against Cresselia. And we're fortunate because a lot of safe swap Cresselias now run Future Sight, which is to deal with Talonflames but has the same effect of allowing it to do massive damage to Chandelure, because you can see even that resisted Moonblast did big damage to us there. We were hoping this second Flame Charge would KO. I'd honestly never thrown 2 Flame Charges against a Cresselia yet. Running Chandelure, it was a little bit short, but we're not too stressed because we know we can get to another charge move against the Obstagoon here, and this pressures a shield because this is now a double buffed Flame Charge. It's going to hit pretty hard if they let it through, which they do, that's fine. They're choosing to save their shields, probably for the Pokemon in the back. Now, normally if a Cresselia swaps in, I do recommend you swap in Trevenant to meet it, but this game was a very specific example of why it actually works sometimes to bring in Chandelure, because that Cresselia was obviously designed to bait out a Trevenant, which is one of the strongest counters, or even maybe a Steel type, maybe something like Registeel as well, but the hardest counters to Tapu Fini, and Water Gun Tapu Fini would have absolutely annihilated Chandelure. It would have had no chance. So even though we'd have took a stronger lead against the Cresselia in the start, we would have absolutely lost in the end game, because Scrafty can put in some work against Tapu Fini, but Chandelure would have been absolutely melted by that Water Gun. But Trevenant can put in all the work it needs to here, and we can just counter down this Tapu Fini, and there's absolutely nothing left to worry about in this game. We shield up because it probably could have been a Moonblast. Maybe they were close to have a Moonblast and a Surf, but they don't get the other move off. They're going to surrender there, and that's going to be a GG. Alright, jumping into the next matchup against Nimmer Niels. What have they got on the lead to meet our Scrafty? They've got Registeel. Brilliant lead for us, but what are they going to do with it? They're going to swap out into Talonflame, and we can't really bring Trevenant into this thing. Trevenant gets absolutely smashed to pieces by Talonflame, and Chandelure doesn't have the best matchup. You're just 2 fire types throwing Flame Charge and Incinerates against each other, but Talonflame has the bulk. So if Talonflame decides to start committing shields in, and we're a little bit behind on energy, we're going to lose that matchup. So we're going to choose to stay in with Scrafty, let the first charge move go, because there's no way they're going to throw a Brave Bird after they've just swapped in and don't have the ability to swap out and clear that debuff. Then we swap to Chandelure, catch the second Flame Charge, because we know even though Chandelure is very squishy, we can survive that fairly comfortably. And now we farm down entirely. We've got a boatload of energy to threaten whatever comes in now. And it's a Cresselia. We're going to throw a Flame Charge, which they don't shield. That's fine, because an unbuffed Shadow Ball will not one-shot Cresselia. So it's not a huge deal that they didn't shield the first one up. They do shield the second move up, which is fine. We're going to get to another Shadow Ball, and this will hurt if they let it through. They don't, we get the second shield. That's fine for us. But we're in a tricky spot now. This trainer has a half-health Cresselia with a boatload of energy, and they've got a Registeel. So I'm going to bring in Scrafty, go for the foul play straight away, get the chip damage on the Cresselia, and we're just going to absorb whatever they throw. If it's Grass Knot, it won't KO us. That's fine. If it's Moonblast, which it is, takes us out, that's fine. We're just going to commit everything into Trevenant. We're going to shield this up, because if it's Future Sight or Moonblast, it's probably the hardest hitting charge move left in the game, because Registeels will run the Focus Blast and Zap Cannon, both of which Trevenant's going to resist. And we're just going to go for these Shadow Claws and Shadow Balls as fast as we can. Try and get this Registeel down. This, if it's Zap Cannon, if it debuffs us, is a little bit scary. Do they get the debuff? They do. That's bad news for us, because that means this Shadow Ball is probably not going to quite KO, and we have to race probably to a Seed Bomb as well to finish off this Registeel. We're going to make it. Yep, we do. That's pretty close and pretty lucky for us, but it is going to take out the Registeel, and then the Cresselia is just in Shadow Claw farm down range. So that's going to be a GG. Okay, this next matchup is a lesson why not to assume what move your opponent's running. We're getting a Alolan Ninetales on the lead. And does it have Charm? You'd assume it's got Charm, right? Yeah, so we're going to swap straight out to Trevenant? No, it's Powder Snow. And this is really bad news for Trevenant. We're going to get dramatically outpaced to these Weather Balls. Are going to hit us like an absolute truck. And also against a Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales, Scrafty can hold its own very well. As long as you can shield up a Dazzling Gleam, you're looking very good in that matchup, because the counter is going to add up, the Power Punch can amp up your damage, you can really hold your own in that matchup. But we've got Trevenant in here, which is really the worst matchup on the team for a Powder Snow Ninetales, and we're deciding to play it out, and we're lucky that they choose to swap out into Stunfisk, and we don't mind at all that they're choosing to swap out at that point. We're going to give him a Shadow Ball and swap out to Scrafty because the switch timers are so out of sync at this point. That's completely fine for us. We're going to throw a Power-Up Punch, amp his damage up a bit, go for the farm down, because they shouldn't make it to another Earthquake. This is probably just a Rock Slide, and it's not like the Ninetales gets a free farm down here. It has to throw energy at the Scrafty to take us out, and if they don't do it quick, which they do, luckily for us, and luckily for them, the counter damage would really start adding up really against them. We'll get this last Power-Up Punch off. It's not going to do much, but it is a nice little bit of chip damage, and now we're just going to come in with Chandelure, farm down, and hopefully ahead on energy. Chandelure's going to be able to wreck whatever's in the back. There's a Trevenant in the back. Can Chandelure sweep this game? We are down a shield, and Shadow Ball is going to absolutely wipe us out. You can see the Shadow Claws are doing an immense amount of damage, so we're going to swap into our Trevenant, quickly jump to a Shadow Ball before they have a chance to react, take them out, take the win. That's going to be a good game, unless they get this farm. No, they're not going to get the farm down. They're just going to throw energy, and then Chandelure's just one Incinerate to finish them off. I don't think they've got a... Oh, they do have a move. But this isn't going to be enough to take us out. It's resisted. Ninetales isn't that attack weighted. So the Incinerate comes through, takes them out. Good game. As you can see, sometimes this team requires a bit of finesse to get around the shield situation, because honestly, both Trevenant and Chandelure need shields in a lot of situations to really show their full potential, but we're making it work in a lot of these matchups. So, in this next game, we've got a Scrafty mirror match, and we really have no choice but to stay in here and just play out this game, because we can't really bring the ghosts into this Scrafty. Chandelure can do okay because the Incinerate damage ramping up with the flame charges and stuff, especially if you're shielding up the foul plays, is going to really start adding up. But we figure we're better off just clearing out a dark type with our Scrafty, and hopefully the ghost types are free to run around in the back and create some absolute mayhem. So we're not going to shield this up, we're not too stressed about switch advantage, and we're going to mutually KO. That's completely fine. We have to make a decision. We're going to go for Chandelure here, and that's going to be a mistake. We bring in Chandelure, they bring in a Jellicent, so we absolutely would have loved to have Trevenant lined up against that. We swap to Trevenant, and they've got a Drapion in the back. And Drapion is a bit of a pain for this team, to be honest. Scrafty handles it okay, but Trevenant and Chandelure are going to struggle against it. Trevenant struggles more than Chandelure because, again, that Incinerate damage can really add up and really just chunk opponents down. We're going to let Trevenant go, put it all on Chandelure, but honestly this game's already lost, because unless for some reason we get a Shadow Ball through against the Jellicent, which they've still got both shields, isn't going to happen, so we just let that move go through. I don't know what we were hoping for, but honestly the Jellicent could have just Shadow Balled us anyway. We had no chance in that game, so we pretty much just surrendered it there by letting that move through. Good game all the same. We take a 4 out of 5 set, which for a double ghost team using something a little spicy as Chandelure, which Chandelure is not highly rated for the Ultra League. Let me just say that, even without Poltergeist, Shadow Ball is better, but even with Shadow Ball, it is still like rank 400 and something in the Open Ultra League. It is not something you really want to be using unless you fancy trying out the spice. So jumping straight into the next set, and we've got another Scrafty mirror match on the lead, and we're just going to see how this matchup goes. Bear in mind, my Scrafty is not PvP IVs, it's just 100% IVs built up to 2500 CP. You're much better with a bulkier Scrafty, and I believe that shows in this mirror match in particular. I believe we do actually lose this matchup, despite getting the Power-Up Punch off first and then getting another counter through when they throw. The chip damage is slightly higher from their counters on us because we're not as bulky, and that means that the Power-Up Punch is going to take us out. They survive with a sliver of health, and we're just going to come in with Chandelure, get ahead on some energy with an Incinerate, because Chandelure's energy can get more out of control faster, and we're hoping they don't have a way of dealing with this thing with an energy lead. They come in with a Shadow Nidoqueen, and Shadow Nidoqueen isn't the best answer to Chandelure. It's looking pretty promising, to be honest, if they bring this in, because the Poison Jabs, sorry, are resisted. Poison Fang, if they throw, it's resisted, but they did build up energy for an Earth Power, so we had to respect that and shield up. We're going to let this second move go because it should be another Poison Fang, which will hit pretty hard because we are bulky and we're now debuffed, but let's go for another Shadow Ball. They're going to shield, they're going to let it through. What's going to happen? They give us a shield, that's fine. We're going to bring in Trevenant with a shield advantage and hopefully can sweep the end game. We're assuming they're weak to Ghost in the back if they brought Nidoqueen in here, so it is looking pretty good for us, assuming, at least anyway. So a Seed Bomb, Get rid of this thing. What's in the back? It's a Stunfisk. So, Stunfisk actually isn't that bad against Chandelure. Now, normally Stunfisk struggles against some of the fire types, but because it's so squishy, a Rock Slide will annihilate Chandelure. Chandelure can't take a Rock Slide to save its life. It will get mud shot down after taking one, which means that Stunfisk can outpace it and put in some real work. But this is going to be just enough. We're going to survive with like 1 HP in a dream, get to the Shadow Ball, take out the Stunfisk, and that is going to give us that game. It's going to be a GG. If they'd have farmed us down there, which was very close, we would have lost that game because we would have just thrown Rock Slides into Chandelure. But nice, lucky break there, and we're going to take the win. Deoxys lead is a bit of an iffy one. Scrafty can do pretty well against Deoxys, even though Deoxys is throwing those super effective counters. They normally run Rock Slide and Psycho Boost in the Ultra League, so you're going to be resisting those charge moves, and your foul plays are super effective. You can put some serious work in. In this particular matchup, we're going to opt to swap out into Trevenant, which I don't know if that's the best call. I think really you're better off staying in with Scrafty against a Deoxys lead and just seeing what they got in the back and trying to line up. The only upside here is that we've baited out a Drapion, which does do pretty well against those ghosts in general. It means we can farm him down with Scrafty, get ahead on some energy, and then dump some foul plays into the Deoxys if it does come back in. But you're going to see that if we'd have maybe stayed in with Scrafty against the Deoxys and maybe controlled switch advantage, we might have had good play in the end of this game if we had good alignment. But we're stuck with Chandelure in the back, and you're going to see where that's going to go. And let this move go. We're not particularly stressed, even if it's a if it's a Thunderbolt, it would take us out. But like I said, we're not expecting anything like that back here to be running. We're not expecting any Deoxys to run Thunderbolt in the Ultra League. We're going to throw a move here. We're going to shield up because Rock Slide again would do big damage because Chandelure can't really afford to be taking super effective charge moves from anything, even something as defense weighted as Defense Deoxys. But then look what's in the back. It's an Empoleon. They've still got 2 shields. Like, we just can't do anything here. We're just going to throw Flame Chargers helplessly into this thing while it waterfalls us down entirely. And it's got enough health really to just waterfall down Scrafty as well. And that's going to be a G to the opponent. In an ideal world, we'd have had Scrafty against Deoxys, took switch advantage, got Trevenant against the Empoleon, which is a very good matchup for Trevenant, and then Chandelure and the bit of health left on Trevenant combined should have just been able to take out Drapion as well in the back. Right, next matchup, Swampert lead. We are just very happy to see this thing not lined up with Chandelure. If you want a devastating matchup, you just need to see Swampert against Chandelure. It gets absolutely mincemeated. Now, we built up to a foul play and throw the power-up punch, and they actually catch our power-up punch on Mandibles, which is absolutely zero stress to us, because this is a Snarl Mandibles, and what I was talking about in the first matchup you're going to see here is that Scrafty really doesn't stress about this matchup, because all them Snarls and the Aerial Ace doesn't get us down below 50% health, which means they have to land 3 Aerial Aces to take us out. And look at how much the counter damage is adding up here. We're really going to be chipping them down. We can just commit a shield if we have to and control switch advantage still, and we do need to control switch advantage. Trevenant absolutely smashes Swampert to pieces. Chandelure is going to get smashed to pieces, so it's vital we do control switch advantage here. So this is worth the shield, counter down entirely, and maybe get a charge move off against the Swampert if it comes back in. Now, they built up the energy. That's fine, we're not going to worry. We're just going to let Scrafty go. We got Trevenant, save a shield for the Chandelure, see what's in the back. There's a Stunfisk, and you're going to see here, this is a bad situation really for Chandelure. Maybe the opponent doesn't realise that Rock Slide is going to absolutely smash us to pieces. They might misjudge just how bulky Chandelure is. Is this worth a shield? It is worth a shield. We're going to shield up a Rock Slide, and then we're going to go, hopefully, do we make it to another Incinerate? Does this take us out? It's going to do big damage. Bang! Good lord, I don't think you've ever seen a Rock Slide hit anything that hard, unless it's like a Charizard or a Talonflame, you know, double weak. But we're going to get the Flame Charge through, wipe out the Stunfisk, and even though this Swampert's got a shield advantage, there's nothing it can do against Trevenant. Even with Sludge Wave, it already spent its energy to take out the Scrafty, so it wouldn't be able to get to enough moves fast enough to take out Trevenant. We're going to go for double Seed Bomb, we're going to take him out, and we're going to take the win in this game, and that's going to be a GG. It really is embarrassing how squishy Chandelure is. Like, taking a Rock Slide and getting absolutely smashed to pieces isn't ideal, but like I said, if you can work around that squishiness, Chandelure can really put some work in as well in some matchups. Alright, this Ninetales lead, we do wait and throw one counter to make sure they are running Charm before we swap out into Trevenant, just to make sure we're not going to get Trevenant caught against another Powder Snow Ninetales like before, and it is worth taking that one Charm worth of damage just to make sure, because there's a good chance you're going to lose switch advantage anyway, and Scrafty might end up locked in that matchup anyway, so the one Charm of damage preemptively is worth making sure that you don't make that mistake. Now, even though this is a Charm Ninetales, they can still force switch advantage by double shielding, which they're going to do here, which isn't ideal, but also this means by this point the switch time is back up, so if they do choose to swap out of this matchup, we can just swap Scrafty back in and whatnot. We did know that they had enough energy for a side shot there, which is why we shielded, because like we said, Chandelure can't really take a charge move that isn't already resisted. Stunfisk is going to come in here, and they've thrown 3 mud shots. We cannot get to the flame charge before they get that rock slide off. So we had to swap out to Scrafty, see what they chose to do, and Sylveon's going to come in. We're not quite going to make it to the Shadow Ball to take them out, and honestly we needed a flame charge loaded anyway to finish off the Stunfisk as well. So we're in a tough spot in that matchup. Like I said, Chandelure down shields can be so tough to work with. Alright, we're 2-2 in this last set. Can we hold our own against a Deoxys lead? We're going to opt to learn from our mistakes against the previous Deoxys and just staying with Scrafty and hope that getting switch advantage from this game is going to be enough, so from this matchup in particular, to actually control the rest of the matchup. We're going to go for these foul plays, and you're going to see these do hit Deoxys pretty hard, and if we do get another foul play off, we are going to be able to take them down. We're going to have to counter them down and take switch advantage, assuming again that they don't have Thunderbolt and don't surprise us here, because even if they throw a Rock Slide or Psycho Boost here, I think we still survive it and can still finish them off. It is the Psycho Boost. No, Psycho Boost finishes off. Okay, so we're going to choose to give up the switch advantage. They swap out aggressively into Porygon 2, and the only reason we swap out to Chandelure really is just because this means that the Porygon 2 isn't resisting our fast moves, you know, because Porygon 2 it's got some pretty fast charging and hard hitting charge moves, and without the Shadow Claw pressure from Trevenant, it could probably put some serious work in there. I don't know the specifics of the matchup, but I figured Chandelure was going to do better than Trevenant. So we're just going to stay in here. We get a shield out of them, and this means we can farm them down entirely and then just start dumping all this energy into whatever's in the back. We're hoping they don't get a charge move off here. They don't quite. Nice for us. What do they bring in? It's the Deoxys. They've got energy. They should be a Psycho Boost, which will hit hard. Not KO us though. We've got even more energy for whatever's in the back, and it's a Shadow War Rain. This could be a Shadow Ball. You better shield, right? They do shield, that's fine. We know we're at risk if we try and then get to a Shadow Ball after this, so we're going to go for another Flame Charge. Does big damage. Swap to Trevenant. We know we can survive one Icicle Spear, and we will get to the Seed Bomb, finish them off, and take them out, and that's going to give us a win. The opponent's going to surrender, and that is a good game. Chandelure does play very similarly to Talonflame, where it's all about energy management, redirecting charge moves, making sure that the opponent doesn't catch charge moves if you can avoid it, things like that, but it's much squishier. Talonflame can take hits, it can take a Hydro Cannon from Swampert, it can take a Rock Slide from Stunfisk, and Chandelure really is just like a cheap version of Talonflame, really. It gets similar coverage, similar weaknesses, but it is a lot of fun to play with, and it's just nice to bring the spice, and sometimes the ghost typing, the double ghost, really catches some opponents out. So let me know what you guys think of the team down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch all you guys next time. Oh, and good luck with Litwick Community Day.